After dealing with anxiety for 10 goddamn long years, these things I always kind of work through if there's any sort of future situation that's giving me problems. I just first want to kind of get into why our minds actually fear the future, right? So, anxiety is fear about the future, depression is rumination on the past. That's how I see it. So your mind is kind of like a storyteller, right? So if you kind of read a book and you have chapter one and then chapter two, based on what happened in chapter one, so if something bad happened in chapter one, your brain basically sees that as what's going to also happen in chapter two, chapter three, chapter four, and the rest of your story, even if you haven't read the pages. So your mind just wants to kind of create scenarios because it thinks that's what's happening, right? It just wants to create a worst case scenario because that is what its job is. Your brain's job is to predict the future based on what's happening or what happened in the past. So if you had a panic attack while driving on the highway, your brain is going to be like, you're going to have a panic attack again when driving on the highway. If you went on a plane and you had anxiety while being stuck in the air, because of that situation that happened in the past, your brain is going to try and protect you from it. So it'll be like, oh, what if it happens again? What if this happens? Etc. So it just stems from the worst case scenario. And the key word here is that it's a scenario. It doesn't actually exist. It only exists in the imagination. So even though when you're reading chapter one, your mind is trying to tell you what's going to happen in chapter two or chapter three or chapter four, you haven't actually read those chapters to understand what's actually going to happen in those chapters, if that makes sense. Now, this is step one of any sort of fear that you have about the future, which is going to be actually defining it. Okay? So, the way I kind of see anxiety and all these intrusive thoughts that you guys have, it's kind of like smoke, right? You can't really see anything, and it's just kind of like, yo, what if this happens? Or what if that happens? Or what if I don't like this? And it's all kind of blurry. It's like blurred lines. What I want you kind of to do is to read between the blurred lines and actually define the thing you're so afraid of. Like it's okay to be afraid. Like it's totally okay to be afraid of the party that you have to go to, the work event that you have to go to, fear of being alone. Like it's totally okay. But let's just make it concrete. Like what actually is it that you're afraid of? And just naming it can reduce the power over you. So for example, I'm scared about this work meeting that I have. Okay, cool. What exactly about it are you scared about? Well, I'm scared because I might get fired. Okay, why might you get fired? Oh, because I haven't been working as hard or I haven't been doing this well. Cool, cool. Pinpoint it, write it down, and actually define it. Because it's kind of like layers of an onion. You have the first layer, which is like sort of this, the first intrusive fear or thought that your mind gives you. But that's not the real reason. So keep peeling back the layers to understand and define the clear reason. So, for example, if it's the work thing, you're afraid you're going to stumble over your words and your colleagues will think you're incompetent. Okay, well, that's something we can work with. That's something we can take tangible action toward now that you've actually defined it. So the goal here is to take your vague fear, put it into words, something concrete and specific, so that we can actually take action or change some sort of behavior within ourselves that would actually, be proactive instead of kind of just being a victim to it. And just because this is so, so important, whenever your fear is not defined, right? By writing it down, what you're kind of doing is creating boundaries around it. The thing is, whenever you don't do this, you're just fueled by your emotions. Whatever that fight or flight part about your brain wants to do, you'll just go with it. I was talking to someone in the community, and one of their fears was being alone. And I asked her, like, okay, why are you afraid of being alone? And there was a few moments of silence, and she realized that she didn't actually know, right? She didn't actually know. I was like, okay, cool. To know, you gotta sit with yourself and actually understand what is it that you're afraid of. So this is why you want to name the fear because it makes it something real. If it's vague, it's like this cloud of smoke coming at you and you have no idea what to do. But if it's well and defined, it's kind of like a neat box cloud that you can actually see, that you can actually avoid. If it's all smoke and it's all overwhelming because you have no idea what it is, you're much more likely to drown in it. So think of it like naming the fear as shining a torch in a dark room so you can actually see that that monster you think is not the monster, it's just a pile of clothes. Anyone that's seen a horror movie knows what I mean because like at night, you see have a chair and it looks totally like a monster. And as soon as you on the light, you're like, oh, it's not a monster. It's just like the pile of clothes or my coat hanging behind the door or a chair. But you have to shine the light and turn on the light by naming it to actually see that. And step two is something I do all the time, probably one of the most under talked about things that I feel if people actually applied, they could be insanely happier about current shitty situations, which is comparing it to a worser situations, right? So Ingrid, shout out to you because I'm going to use you for this example. So one of the things Ingrid is afraid of, she made an advice post on the community recently. One of the things she's afraid of is like, what if I go to Belfast, funny enough, which is where I'm in right now, and like, she has the throat symptoms or she can't eat or swallow in the car. And if we compare that to something worse, if I compare that to, okay, what if your family gets in a car accident and you can never travel to Belfast and or you have your arms injured and you can never drive again and you can never drive anywhere, never mind to Belfast. Wouldn't you rather be in the position you're in now? Or to make it a little bit more real, most of you on this call, most of you listening, you've had these peaks and troughs of anxiety. So if I take you back and transport you to a moment where when your anxiety is at its worst, the symptoms are at its worst, you're the most confused, you have no idea what's happening, you have no idea how to deal with it, even just a little bit. If you're in that situation, wouldn't you, in a heartbeat, wish you were in the situation you're in now? You would pray to be in the situation you're in now. So just come back to, okay, where am I now? What's something worse? And is where I am now actually worse than that situation that's worse? And just bring yourself back. Like if you fear public speaking, compare it to losing your best friend. If you're anxious about a job interview, compare it to like not having a job interview at all. There's always something worse. It's not that your feelings aren't valid. It's not that your feelings aren't important. It's just that this power of imagination, instead of imagining the worst case scenario and just predicting that that's going to happen, if you think about a worse situation but choose to feel the emotion gratitude instead, it can be pretty amazing the perspective change you get. And kind of step three is bringing yourself back to the present moment. Again, fear about a future event doesn't exist yet. It just exists in your head. So, the most effective antidote that you can do is bring yourself back to the present moment because the present moment is almost always safe. Like, almost always. It's just your mind worrying about the future. Even if you're having a physical sensation, it's not even the physical sensation in that moment that's causing you trouble. Because in that moment, you've already borne it, you're already feeling it. Usually, what's bothering you is the next moment of the palpitation, the next moment of the back pain, the next moment of the dizziness. That is usually what's causing your suffering, not what's happening in this moment, because the pain in this moment, you're already feeling. It's already there. So you can notice a breath, notice one sound, notice your feet on the ground. If you're sitting down, notice the support of the chair. If you're laying down, notice the back of the bed. Just something that takes you to the present moment. You can even do a message of safety where you look out through your eyes and you ask yourself, what is dangerous right now? Like, is anything happening to me this moment? And if it's not, you're safe. You really are safe. So that's kind of, I just want to share a quote from Alan Watts, someone I deeply respect. Rest in peace now, of course. Your mind might be racing with future possibilities, right? But if you bring your body back to the present, this is kind of the power of it. So I'm just gonna read it word for word what Alan Watts have said. The future is a concept. It doesn't exist. There's no such thing as tomorrow. There will never be because time is always now. That's one of the things we discover when we stop talking to ourselves and stop thinking. By the way, that's why you meditate. We find there is only a present, only an eternal now. So the only moment that exists is right now. Not that party that you're afraid of, not the future job, not the future partner, not the future house, not the future holiday that you have planned. The only thing that actually exists is now. So if you're here, then where is your suffering? Where is the pain? It doesn't exist. It just exists in there when you're actually not here. Now, this is kind of the final step. So, this is where once you've defined the fear, once you've brought yourself back to the present moment, this is where, if it is a fear that you have something under your control in, take a small, immediate action. So, for example, if you avoid the situation, that's just going to make your anxiety grow. So, for example, if you're afraid about a major exam, what's something small you could do right now? Well, I could study a little bit, right? If it's about a difficult conversation that you have to have that you're avoiding, you're like, okay, cool. Well, I could write down something that I know I want to say. If it's a job interview and you're afraid about failing, okay, so instead of practicing and rehearsing the worst case scenarios, I can write down or practice for the interview, right? Because the goal isn't to solve the entire fear at once, it's just to take one step forward so your brain realizes you're safe. So, just to summarize, right? Define it. Like, what is it that you're actually afraid of? It's not the label, it's not the packaging. So, it's like if you have a sweet, you have the packaging. It's not the wrapper, it's what's inside that's the actual fear. Name it. Then shrink it. Like, what's something worse than this? What's something worse than a holiday that I have to go to do a plane? Well, there's literally people in Gaza and Palestine in wars and bombs. I would much rather be anxious about a holiday than be in that situation. Three, ground yourself. Bring yourself back to the present moment. Do a message of safety where you look out through your eyes and you notice you're safe. Ask yourself what's happening right now. Is the fear I'm worried about, is it actually happening right now? And if the answer is no, notice that. Notice a sound, a breath, a feeling, whatever. And four, be proactive, so act on it. Once you've defined the fear, write down the things that are actually in your control. If it's, oh my God, I'm afraid about the holiday that's coming up. Cool. What are you doing about the holiday? Well, I could, if I meditated a little bit more consistently, I could probably be a little bit more grounded and mindful. Cool. Why don't you do a meditation right now? Why don't you write down your fears right now? Why don't you go take a walk to clear your head right now? Just do one small step towards the greater goal to build your confidence.